All right, and welcome to INTerviiew.
Yeah,
uh,
welcome.
yes, this is Nick and Marcus, and
Shalom.
we are actually here to talk to Marcus about one of his writing projects
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
shared with me, and
Mm-hmm.
we're just gonna go over and get a little insight into how everything came about. Maybe read a couple of them here and there. Maybe see what
See what's going
ones
on.
go most well with him. It's his project AU_XY,
Yeah, AU_XY.
which
Yeah.
is a clever little play on things. AU being for gold on
Yep.
the elemental table, and then XY boy.
Yep.
So golden boy.
Golden Boy. Yeah. I it had a couple titles, and then the more I thought about the name Golden Boy, I really liked it because just kind of how it felt. Because like when somebody gets called the Golden Boy,
Sure,
it's
yeah.
always like, oh, this person can do no wrong, or
Exactly.
this person has it together, or this and that. And then I found the description from Urban Dictionary, and it was, let me see.
Wasn't it something about being perceived as the
Yes,
golden boy?
it's all about like perception, like you were perceived.
Oh, you actually put it in here.
Yeah.
A person whom appears to have an untarnished record of any kind, most people considered a golden boy, actually do have many flaws and are not what they appear.
Exactly, and it's kind of like, I felt like that a number of times because it's like, I mean, we just like for example, I'd go out somewhere, and it'd be like, who don't you know at the bar? I mean, you've obviously
Yes.
you've been there as well. Who don't you know? Or like when I would go to class or something, like for example, when I had English class or speech class, I never prepared any of my speeches
Nope.
that intensely. I kind of
Same.
went off the cusp on everything and did really well in all of those, and people were just like, well, how the hell do you do it? Like, you're so good at this. And then I would show people just different stuff that we've done, and they're just like, oh, you guys are funny, and you're this and you're that. And then it just came from, everybody likes to show what's golden about
Sure,
them.
I mean, it's the old tutelage of putting your best foot forward. So obviously,
Exactly.
you always want to be doing that. And I mean, you don't want to be showing people your crappy side.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. Like, especially in with today's media and just kind of social media and stuff like that, we don't see anybody's crappy. Like, nobody's crappy.
No,
Like,
that's very true.
you're like-
You try to be very polished all the time.
all the time, and it's kind of like you get a sense of, I have to be polished.
Absolutely. It becomes to a point, and I mean, there's many people that try to throw that off and
Yeah.
whatnot, but it comes to a point where it is a mentality of like, well, I can't post this up because this isn't going to look good on this end, or like,
Yeah.
or like we discussed on the podcast a few weeks ago about trying to take the perfect picture. Like, you go through 100 times of, oh, no, my hair wasn't right, or oh no, I wasn't smiling, and you just go and go and go. over that.
Yeah, and it's almost kind of like everybody, especially now more so than ever, is kind of like nobody wants to show the downside of anything, because if you look at like your Facebook and your Twitter and your social media and stuff, it's always just like, made cookies, yay, like like Junior took his first steps, yay, got the new car I wanted, yay, but they didn't say like the cookies gave him food poisoning, and like Junior fell and now he has to get stitches.
Exactly.
Or like the car got recalled or some shit like that. So it's always we want to show the best that we have to offer, but we also are flawed, and nobody likes to talk about flaws.
Sure, sure. Which is something that you mentioned in this, because you put a little bit of an intro, explain what the project is, how it came about, and everything in the beginning of the piece. And you even mentioned about how you had a conversation with a friend previously about some of your writings that you had shared, and how they thought it was really good, but they didn't think that you were being open with it. That they said that it seemed like you were trying to hide pieces or
yeah, and that was actually that was years ago, and that was one of my very good friends, Christy, and I showed her something, and she was like, "It's good, you know it's good, but you're not telling everything. Like you're like you said, like you're cherry picking certain things, and you're attempting to tell a story without all of the pieces. So it's kind of like you get 75% of the story because the other 25% was not, maybe it wasn't ideal, or maybe it just didn't, it didn't feel polished."
Sure, absolutely. So, actually jumping into it, it's kind of poetry in motion, very, very spoken word almost kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because there's no, like, flowery poetry rhyme scheme to it, but it's very out there. And so, I mean, just explain to me even, like, the very first line here. Walking wet dream meets existential crises, or so it seems.
Again, it refers back to the name, because if you're a walking wet dream, somebody out there absolutely wants you for whatever reason. You could be very good at just anything, and like think about it, like somebody that when you see them and you think, "Oh, I want them," like that's them. That is who I want. That's like a walking wet dream. But the part where it says, like, meets existential crisis, or so it seems, is kind of like, again, the internal, like, all of the things that are not on the surface.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's almost like when you get told by people, like, "Hey, you'd make a really good candidate for this position. You should go, and you should run, you should apply." Everybody tells you that.
Sure.
But then you're thinking to yourself, like, "Can I really do this position?"
Right. Absolutely.
So that's what it's kind of in, like, again, it plays back to the title of, one side is good and polished, and the other side is dark and dingy, but the other side has more value.
Right. And in this case, walking wet dream meets existential crises, so it's like a constant questioning of, despite being told, "Oh, you'd be great for this," constantly having the question in head of, like, would I? Am I? Like,
yeah.
Nice. And I mean, that the rest of that keeps going down and through, and like you have, I couldn't help but think back to I can't think of the one band, but the "Am I Human" or "Am I Pisces" line that you have in there.
Yeah. I forget who the heck that was, but I know you're talking about. Are we human or are we dancer?
Exactly.
And just different stuff like that. Like two of my very good friends are into astrology. So astrology's, your moon is here, your this is your that, and your these is or your those is. And there's been times where I talk to my friend, and she's a very intelligent person. Like, I'll sit down and we've had hour-long discussions, and 2, 3, 4 hours, stayed up all night, scarfed a gazillion and 12 pieces of pizza, and just like bullshit and like talked. But it's like, sometimes she'd be like, "Well, you do this and you do that and you do that, and that's that's typical Pisces traits," and I'm just like, that makes my fucking teeth hurt. I hate it.
I've been told that same thing with Scorpio.
Yeah, like, I can't be a fucking human.
Well, I mean, it's a part of how everyone's always trying to put a label on someone.
Exactly. Like, how about maybe I did what I did because of the situation? But yeah, like, am I human or am I Pisces? And then also the line before it, because I'm born in March, so I am a Pisces.
Right.
But I'm kind of like being a little bit tongue in cheek here, like, am I a human, or are these traits like predestined for me.
Right. It kind of comes down to that whole, like, do I have control of my fate thing?
Yeah, or is just like the big Sims simulator in the sky doing whatever it's supposed to do. Because I oh my god, it would fucking annoy the shit out of me so much. And I mean, I love them. They're like sweet as pie, but it always just like, that's because you're a Pisces. And I'm like, fucking A. Like, oh my god. But yeah.
Just drive you crazy.
It does, because it's just like you're looking for all this other, like, otherworldly stuff, and it's not, like, no. It's not, no.
It's not because of the position of Mars and
Yeah, like, I don't know what the fuck Mars is doing, so it can't be the position. Like, I don't, like, I get it, I understand, like, astrology, it's cool, it has all the lore behind it and everything, but I'm not like, I don't see somebody do something at, like, my job, and I'm just like, well, you know, Carrie over there, he's a Libra, so you know how they are, like, and I'm just like.
Right.
It hurts my brain.
No, I understand what you're saying. And, I mean, looking at it, it's interesting when reading the opening, because it's basically like almost a more flowery way of redoing what you stated in the prelude there.
Yeah.
I mean, it essentially says the exact same thing, but in much more better language to it.
Yeah, it's a bit, you know,
or
trim the
leaves a
fat.
little more imagination to it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the last part of it is clean and scandalous, wrapped in one being. I wonder what I would do different if I got granted rebirth with cognitive knowledge past a onesie.
Yeah, like, if I knew straight up out the womb what I knew, what would I do different? Like, and that's just in general, like, in life, because think about all the things where you sit down and you're just like, man, if I knew this person was going to act this way, or if I knew that this stock was going to be like this, or if I knew that, you know, it's going to be crappy outside, so I shouldn't drive my car because it's going to wreck, and, you know, just like all, and just not even like premonition, but just knowledge-wise.
Sure. I mean, it always goes back to that hindsight is 20/20 kind of thing, and I mean, just not that you would be reliving the same event or anything, but you would have what you've had now coming out with the knowledge that you have of your life on Earth and whatnot, and you're just like, oh, well, I'm not going to let this bully in 5th grade bother me because this is just petty and dumb, like. Yeah,
and there's just, like, so much that happens, and you're just like, man, if I knew what I knew now.
Right.
Golden. I would be golden.
You would be the golden boy.
I would be. I'd be, like, a trillionaire somewhere. I'd have, like, 12 yachts and a tiger with a jetpack or some shit. I don't even know.
Tiger with a jetpack? Like a tiger with the jetpack?
Yeah. It's a cyborg tiger jetpack. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So, I did want to know here, because it almost seemed when I was first reading through this, was there any particular reason as to why certain sections are where they are? Like, were you trying to tell something of, like, a flowing story with that, or?
When I like to do it, it's almost kind of like, I like to have things flow a certain way. So it's almost kind of like a little, it can be seen as a little bit of a story in a sense, but just how things are placed are very important to me. So I'll have, like, maybe 15 to 17 different things that I'm like, all right, cool. These have made the cutting room floor for now. And then I might get rid of one or two. And I was like, okay, so I have these, and I will strategically, like, pick and choose what goes where, because to me, it's just, if you just slap things together, it just doesn't go as well.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's part of the process. That's almost kind of like if you sit down and you make a CD, back when people used CDs, No, but if you make a CD and you go, all right, I'm gonna slap like these 12 songs on. Okay, cool. But you might think like, oh, but I want this song before that one and these and it might flow a bit better. So I always like to just kind of sit down and put thought into what goes where.
Sure. And now, I wanted to ask about a couple of the names for these, because some of the names, they do like go into what's in the stanza, whatever you'd want to call it, the poem.
Yeah, and then some of them
are kind of like out of left field, or like it almost doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of connection. Like the first one is just called Opening. The second one though is AA.
Yeah. Well, AA just honestly stands for almost anything.
Okay.
So that's part of it.
That is.
But like, if you didn't know it, you might not like you said. It seems like it's just kind of out of left field. But also with titles too, I'm a title fanatic. Like,
you put deep thought into it.
Oh, absolutely. Everything is kind of meticulously thought out. Like, there's been times where I've written something and it'll have 3 different titles.
Sure.
Because I don't know what to call it. And then I might write like 2 more titles and I'll be like, oh, I really like this. Like I said, like the name of the project, it changed 3 times in total.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, part of it came from another project where that name, I think, changed twice. So it's kind of like, when it sticks, but I'm not one to be like, all right, well, let's call it this. That's good.
No, I understand that. And
Yeah.
in my own writings, I'm kind of the same way, but I fortunately am pretty decent at thinking up of titles. Like, it doesn't take me too much or too long to think up of them, but,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But yeah, like,
I'm the same way, because I normally want my title to
like
mean something
something
and be associated in some way.
Yeah. And like, all the titles were not just randomly picked out of a hat. Like, I specifically went through certain things and sat down and I was just like, all right, so I've got this body of work, or I have this piece. Like, what am I going to call this piece? Because for me, my writing process, I like to write with music.
Sure, man.
So I'll, throw on my headphones. I might listen to it. I always listen to songs on repeat. So I kind of zone out and I'll write and I'll just go. And so what I'll do is I'll have everything I want to say, and then whatever the song that I was listening to, most of the time I try to put it there so I don't forget it. And then I'll keep that as like the title.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what it says. It doesn't have a title yet, but I know what song it is. So I'll pop the song back on, and I'll listen some more, and I might edit it or just like change lines here or there, and then I'll think of the title.
Sure.
So it'll happen like that sometimes, and sometimes I kind of go in with a title in mind, and I've even done that and changed it like 3-4 times anyway. So yeah.
Well, you're just saying you don't pick it out of a hat, but I gotta tell you, the third stanza, the name of that really does seem like you picked it out of a hat. That's glutton //3.
Well,
and I mean, I've reread the thing, and I get the glutton, I get that part, but what's the other portion of that?
the 3? Okay.
Well, the /3, like
The forward slash is just to kind of like
to disconnect the glutton.
Yeah,
into the 3?
disconnect the glutton in 3, because the idea is obviously, if you've read it, and I'm talking about like a taboo subject of people interacting in a threesome, and
I was just about to say, I mean, if you want, you could read that real quick and give the people a little taste of it.
All right, sure, let's do it.
About saying, then we can go further into discussion of the title and discussion of the topic material.
Oh,
and
absolutely. All that. I got nothing but time, broski. So let's do it. But it says, all right, the idea of 3 individuals can get people interested, since it is kind of taboo. I'd be a liar if I said it didn't cross my mind in that manner. Yet there's a deeper interest for what lies beyond the surface. The level of physical interaction involved would be insane. I like touching, body heat, and being wrapped in someone. I love playing with hair and nuzzling before, during, after. Or that could be all. That's why I'll snatch hair ties off and just start, because it feels good to them. I also like doing it. So imagine every aspect, but twice over. It would be sensory overload, but in a good way. So it's the title comes from the word glutton. Obviously, like, it means to gorge or to overindulge.
Right.
So the experience in itself, I'm saying, would almost be like overindulging.
Right,
And then the
sensory overload, as you said.
Yeah, sensory overload. And then 3 is just representative of 3 people.
Sure.
So there's 3 people, and then as far as if you disclude the preface, as it's, I don't know, I didn't pronounce that right. I know words. Excuse me, man, I'm all over the place. If you get rid of the preface, then as far as the body of works, the poems, it's the 3rd poem.
Sure.
So it's about 3 people. It's about more indulgent things, and then it's also the 3rd poem. So.
Okay, gotcha. And I mean, what exactly inspired or influenced you towards writing that one?
That one.
I mean, was that just a what would a threesome be like?
Yes, and kind of no. It was kind of like one of those it almost happened situations.
Ah, okay.
But it didn't, and I was just kind of like, all right, I'm not gonna try and like square peg round hole.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm not I'm not trying to curate anything crazy, but it was kind of like one of those notions where it felt like, it felt like it was on a table. It didn't happen, but I kind of thought, like, what if? And I was explaining it to somebody as to why I would be interested, but more so why I would be interested rather than just having it as a milestone.
Sure.
So that's kind of where, and that actually came, that whole poem is just a rework of a text message.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I just kind of took that and just kind of like reworked it, and I really didn't alter it too much. But yeah, that's kind of where it came from. So it was already there. I just
need a little tweaking.
Yeah, tweaked it a little bit.
Interesting. That one, when I was reading it, I was just like, is there something Marcus isn't saying here? Hasn't told us yet?
No, I mean, that's one of those situations where, like, I'd like to speak on it, but I'm not going to be like, and it was this person, and it was that person, because I'm just like, dude, that's fucking corny. Like, well, you don't...
I'm always just... Anytime I think of a threesome, I'm always thrown back towards... I was a big fan of How I Met Your Mother, and at one point, there is an episode called... I think it's called The Belt, because Ted and Barney had a metaphorical belt. Yeah. And the one time, Ted, like, sent a text to Barney when he had these 2 girls at the bar. He's like, I'm going for the belt tonight!
Yeah. And, it was kind of like... If it happens, cool, and if not, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it.
Exactly, although, you're not gonna try and use it as some kind of milestone or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, I would be a fucking liar if I said, like, I was not fixated for a little bit, but it's not like the end all be all. Like, I'm not gonna die because it never happened.
I didn't have a threesome. I am going to die if I don't. Like, right now.
That's some shit you'd hear at a frat party somewhere.
That is true. That is true.
Like, we're not, nah. But yeah, that's kind of how it came to be.
Okay. And now the next one here touches like drugs.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding it, you're essentially just talking about just touching another person, really.
Yeah.
Just kind of being with them, kind of thing.
Yeah, touching and physicality and how people don't really realize, but like when you're comfortable with somebody and you're touching and you're cuddling and stuff, like chemicals get released.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like it helps with your serotonin and your oxytocin, and you can actually feel better just by like cuddling with somebody, or you can feel better just by like laying down and just hanging out with somebody and just bullshitting and like snuggling up. But yeah, that actually it's been proven that doing those things will release chemicals, so you feel euphoric.
Right. Well, I remember I read an article a few years ago where they were saying about this the exactly what you're just saying there. The even in this case the medical importance of touch, because they said about how they had some like senior citizens and whatnot that were in these homes that didn't have any relatives, or like most of their friends are dead at this point. And so this particular hospital started up this program where these senior citizens could come and like hold and caress like most of like these really prematurely born babies.
Yeah.
Because they found out that with one case particularly that like he had been doing really bad, didn't look like he was going to survive, and then he started being touched and like held and whatnot, and this baby's health suddenly like started just going up, and I mean he survived and everything. But they were saying about the importance of human contact. Yeah.
And there's actually, I forget where it was. It was years ago. But it was a documentary that people are actually, they have like full-blown cuddle parties because it feels good. Like people will put up Craigslist ads.
Get those cuddle puddles.
Yeah, and it's like 20, 30 people in a room, chilling with snacks. That's all they do is just go in. Everybody, you know, you introduce yourself to everybody, you hang out for a little bit, and then you cuddle for like 3 hours.
I mean, if it works, it works. It's a beautiful thing.
I mean, hey.
It further goes to prove, though, that man is a social creature.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And now then, the next one that you have here is rent.
Yeah.
What brought you to writing that one?
Rent, well, it was just like a situation where I was seeing someone and it was kind of casual, and she made the joke. She was like, "Hey, I don't care what you do during the week, but whenever I'm in town, I got dibs." It's kind of like, I don't care what the fuck you do, but when I'm here, fucking mine.
Right.
So it kind of it was just like rent.
I gotcha. Just regardless, like.
Like, yeah, but it wasn't like if I can't come out, like she's gonna throw a tantrum. She wasn't, she wasn't like that because she understood she had shit going on herself. But she kind of made the joke one time, and I was kind of like, okay, like, So that's kind of where that came from, like that whole idea, and the whole thing. I'm attempting to write from her perspective, so it's kind of like. I'm trying to, like, almost kind of like what she would say to me. So, yeah, that's kind of where that all came from.
Okay, I was curious on the perspective of it.
Yeah, there are a few where I kind of swap perspectives with people, and that happens to, I think that might be the first one. Yeah. But it happens a couple times throughout everything, and that's kind of, yeah, I was writing from her perspective.
Okay. So then, on the next one, Dear Diary, My Mausoleum.
Yeah.
Is that your perspective there?
Yeah, that one is mine. And when I say mausoleum, I don't necessarily mean an actual tomb, but I mean, like, everybody obviously has some sort of defense mechanism. Mm-hmm. You keep yourself somewhat guarded. Now, how guarded is up to you. Some people are super guarded, and that's kind of where I fall. So, that to me, in and of itself, almost feels like a mausoleum sometime, or a tomb for those of you who aren't familiar, or like a casket or something like that, because it's kind of like
you're trapped inside.
Exactly, and like if you think about a mausoleum or a tomb or a cat, like once you're in it, you're not leaving.
You're not leaving.
You're there. So, like, I'm talking about how I feel like I'm just trapped in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you want to get out, but you feel like you can't.
Yeah. Like I even said, like, I know, like, I have a line in here that says, the shell around me is a tomb. It would do me good to leave, yet I may never be exhumed. And that's just kind of like, growing needs to happen to leave it. But sometimes I get so caught up in it because it's safe.
Right.
It is.
Right.
It's my safe space.
Sure.
And obviously, we all know, like, we see it all the time. To grow, you must leave your safe space. But it's almost kind of like, it feels just like, it's all I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I got you. So, taking a break from it real quick here from the actual text, just asking another question on the outside of your writing process. You already said that you like to listen to music and everything while doing it.
Yeah.
Are you one of the people that prefer to do handwritten and then type it first? Do you type it, or?
I do a little bit of everything. I used to prefer to handwrite it because it was just it felt like it just flowed better. Like, it felt to me that I could get more out by handwriting. Now I use my phone, or I'll type it up on the computer. Most of the time I just use my phone. I found this app called Google Keep. And I do it through that. So even I could do stuff on my phone, and then I can go to the web browser version, and I could do it through that as well. And it'll update and save to my phone. It's like one of the little Google apps like Docs or Drive or whatever. But, yeah. So
I always use Google Drive myself, because I do the same thing. If something hits me when I'm out and about and whatnot, and I have the time, I'll just type it right up on my phone. Yeah, you
type it right there, and it's there. But also, with Keep, I can link it to Google Drive.
Ah, okay.
So if I set something that I want, I can just do it however I want it, and then if I want it to set to Google Drive, then I'll just dump it to Google Drive, because they're all interconnected, because they're all Google things.
Nice. All right, then we'll go back into it for a little bit here.
Cool.
Star's interlude.
Well, first of all, Star is an actual person. Like, Star is a person.
Yes, about to say that. It's Star is spelled with 2 R's, not the traditional star of one, like you'd be thinking Night Star.
Yeah. So that, again, is kind of me, like, flipping perspective and just trying to see how things would be from somebody else's perspective. So that's kind of where I came from on that. It's kind of like, it's like a nod to her, because she would always tell me, she's always just like, she'd always tell me, like, you challenge me. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't, like, I'm not trying to be inherently difficult or anything like that. She's like, no. Like, not like that. Like, you just on like a brain level, you challenge me, and you don't necessarily always do what I want, and you're intelligent and I'm intelligent, so we have these different conversations. And I'd send her stuff every once in a while, and she's always just like, yeah, sometimes I have to go through and I have to look things up, and so it's kind of like, yeah, it's always like, I never inherently wanted to be difficult.
Right.
But it's kind of like, yeah. And just the piece itself, it's kind of like, what happened if nothing had ever changed? Because she and I, like, we started off good friends, and then kind of became a thing. And then she told me one day, like she really liked me, and I kind of backed out, and I got cold feet. And I just kind of imagined, like, what would it be if I could, like, read it from her perspective.
Okay. And now, the next one, I thought it was kind of funny. Loft Life plus text interlude. And when you say plus text interlude, there's literally a plus in the middle of it.
Yeah,
and
with
then,
the text interlude.
Yeah, were these actual text messages that
No,
you
no,
sent?
no, no, no,
But I say,
These were not.
Because at the bottom of them, he even puts, like, sent at...
Yeah. I did that purposely. But to backtrack a little bit, to just kind of expand upon the piece before it.
Right, I didn't mean to just jump ahead.
No, you're good. But I just kind of wanted to... But, like, the last couple lines where it's just, like, it kind of refers... It's almost kind of, like, referring back to my mausoleum, because it's kind of like, why do you try so hard to stay a mystery? I don't think it's personal, but sometimes it can get to me. Why won't you let me really know you? What are you afraid of? Like, just the whole, like, I want to know you beyond what you are presenting.
What you show.
Exactly, because I am interested.
Right.
But you seem to have this shell about you, and, like, it's not like a standoffish, like, no, but it's kind of like, it's almost like a wall. Like, there's a wall, and I can't get past it.
Yeah, that's... And, I mean, you saying about referencing back to the mausoleum, and this one that I was going into, you kind of referenced back to the touches like drugs at a few parts. Because at the end of it, you say, she's wine drunk, I'm drunk off physicality, make love to her body, but not her personally, do I prove her right when the sun leaves? And that's referring, obviously, the physicality like we were talking of, but in the very beginning, and I wanted to ask this as well, because you actually have it in quotation marks.
Yeah.
The first two lines are, you don't like me as a person, you just
like me sexually. Yeah, and that came from a very real conversation. And I remember when...
Well, I mean, you even say it, though. You're like, I might prove her right.
Yeah, I might prove her right. And I remember when she said that to me, and it like, as much as I was trying to, like, be cool about it, it fucking cut. Like, bro, I was like, fuck.
Was that because you were kind of like, no, but on the inside, you're kind of like, yeah, maybe.
Like, yeah, a little bit, because, I mean, like, she, sweetheart. Absolute sweetheart, and we go, and she was always fun to hang out with, and, like, but I'm sitting there, and, like, it didn't really dawn on me until she was just like, she pulled my card. Not only did she pull my card, she showed me my card, like, to my face, and I'm like, as much as I was trying to, like, shy away from, like, no, and I was just like, fuck, like, you
caught red-handed.
Absolutely caught red-handed. And it's one of those, like, this whole thing, the whole, just writing everything.
I mean, I'm about to say, this whole piece is essentially you trying to get out of that mausoleum.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of these pieces are, it's one of those, like, nah, it didn't, like, it wasn't even like that. And then I sit down and I'm thinking, and the more I think about it, the more it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, you again, go back to that where you say, keep the inner workings uptight tight, at times but not slip, welcome to duality, both sides, sometimes I hide in plain sight, since being open feels like there's a crosshair dancing on me. Like, yeah.
And then, so the thing is, right, alright, so the line about the not slip and welcome to duality, that's actually a reference to the band Slipknot. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, Slipknot always wore masks.
Right. They hid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like another layer. So I'm saying, like it's more, like, when I say the not slip, I mean, like, the inner workings that were tied come undone. But I'm also saying, like, I'm referencing them as saying, like, this, you know, it's kind of like a mask sometimes.
Sure. And then, I mean, right after the part I just read, you put down, again, like, this mentality of wanting to escape, because you say, a feeling that I'd like to shake, but it feels key to survival.
Yeah. I actually read a book one time. It's a very good book. I read it a couple times, and it's called No More Mr. Nice Guy.
I remember you talking about that before.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and I wish I could just, like, absorb it and take it. And I read it, but it's kind of like one of those, But one of the things, and it's by Dr. Robert Glover, if I remember correctly, and one of the things he says is, people are attracted to other people's flaws. Like, people want to know the rough edges of other people.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to lose people if you try to appear to not have any flaws. Like, that's...
Well, I mean, it's kind of true, in a way, because, it's sometimes a real big bonding factor is your flaws, and you can be like, oh, you're just like how I am. Like, that's great. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's absolutely amazing when you have that moment, but I don't know. I just never figured it out. Like, I never, and it feels. It just feels like I'm just ass naked, like just booty, butt cheeks, naked. Like, I know it sounds. Yes, that's the book. Yeah, Nick pulled the book up on his phone. But yeah, it feels just like like I said, I compared it to having a crosshair on me, and yeah, it just feels like. Firing squad is just setting up, and it's not like that.
Right.
But we're told one of the things. I mean, on the podcast we always talk about like different things we find and stuff. And I remember I was on. I talk about Reddit here and there, and I was on a subreddit, and they were talking about. The subreddit was for women, if I remember correctly, but they were just kind of like, men, like, what are some issues that you face that we don't know about?
Right.
And so one of the big things was just like feelings for us are like trying to throw boulders into the sun sometimes. Like, when it's all of us and we're chit-chatting, we're having a good time, you just like you and I, just like sitting around bullshitting, whatever. We can joke and talk and do whatever with the best of them, but when it's just like, yo, Marcus,
something serious.
Yeah, but it's like, Marcus, how do you feel? I like choke through it. I fumble. Sometimes I can't even. I'd rather just not.
Well, I mean, it's a matter of, and I know there's been a lot of backlash against this lately too, but I mean, it's a matter of. As boys, particularly, we are raised like
no feelings.
Exactly. It's shake it off, rub a little dirt in it if you get hurt.
Yeah. Like, you gotta man up and blah blah blah, and it's so fucking detrimental.
A quote of a song: "Big boys don't cry."
Yeah, but like, think about it. When you were a kid and you fell, so you're a big boy. You don't cry, or like even when. You're an adult, or you're out with your friends and you're being rambunctious, and somebody might be having woman problems, or somebody might just be having a shitty day, and you're just like, man the fuck up, like, cheer the fuck up, like, you're a guy, you can't cry, you're not allowed to do that.
Well, I remember I saw this meme the other day on Facebook that I really, really wanted to reply to, and I didn't want to stir up any controversy, so I didn't.
Yeah.
But it was it's like, in 1942, and it shows a picture of World War II veterans and everything, and they're like, in 1942, 18-year-olds were going off and dying and fighting for freedom like this, and then it goes to, like, in 2016, 18-year-olds need safe spaces and blah, 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 and what I wanted to comment and put back is, yeah, you know how many of those guys came back messed up, and then proceeded to mess up, like, their wives' lives, their children's lives, like... Yes, guess what? Maybe we might not be considered like the tough men or whatever, but at the same time, it's like, look what happened to the guys that were. Like,
and like,
not to knock them. I mean, great guys, but
hell yeah, and I mean,
they went through some terrible trauma, and they were basically told, don't talk about it.
Yeah, they went through fucking hell. Could you imagine going over and seeing this shit that they've seen and doing the things that they've done? Period. And then you come back and you're just like.
Now become normal.
Yeah. Why do you think so many people that served have problems reassimilating into wherever they're at? Because what they've been doing is they've been, you are essentially a defense mechanism for the country now. Like you have to, you're supposed to defend things, or you're supposed to go and do XYZ, but they come back and, they're just told, like, well, you'll get over it.
Exactly.
Like, and how many people have, like, PTSD, and they have shell shocks and night terrors, and flashbacks, and, they can't get jobs because, they're mentally unstable, and it kind of goes back to mental health and how that in and of itself is not, it's not looked upon like actual health.
It still has a huge stigma to it.
It absolutely does, but what baffles me is people will go and they'll spend 15, 20, 30 hours a week in the gym getting the perfect physique, but they won't go do shit for their mind.
Right.
Like, how are you going to go and you're going to eat right and you're going to lift, but if somebody was like, yo, you can go see a therapist for $5 a week because they have a sliding scale and they go to your budget and they're just like, nah, I don't want that. Like, I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. I don't need a padded room. I don't wear a straight jacket.
Right.
Like, bro, like, go, like, do yourself a fucking favor.
Right. But, I mean, it comes back to how you were saying, like, it's again, and for guys, and I'm sure it's somewhat the same for women as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for guys particularly, like I said, it's like born and raised, so it goes back to what you've written, where you're just saying about how you do have a tough time of trying to share, if you will.
Yeah. I have the worst time trying to share. Like, I can sit with you, I can joke with you, I can pick, poke, bullshit, whatever, but the minute you're just like, yo, what are you feeling? Tell me now. That shit feels like I have cement shoes on and you're just like, all right, jump off the cliff.
Right. Well, I mean, when it comes to me, like, and this also kind of goes into it, is that I'll share my feelings and whatnot, and I'm okay with doing that relatively. But interesting thing is that even when someone gets emotional with me and I'm talking and they open up and share to me and whatnot, it's almost like a defense mechanism of I don't even want to know it, because I always try somehow to make a joke into something. Like, not laughing at their situation.
Yeah, but you're just kind of like, ha-ha.
Like, trying to just bring some
humor. Yeah. And because we just don't, we don't get the mechanisms that, our lovely lady counterparts have, and it fucking sucks sometimes. And then I think that's also why we have a lot of disconnect between the sexes, is because they're just like, the women they're like feeling gurus. I don't even know. It's just like, they just wake up and they're just like, oh, what are we feeling? And guys are just like, wake up, breakfast, yay! Like,
eat, sleep, drink, repeat. Eat, sleep, drink, repeat.
Yeah. But, I think it was another book by Mark Manson, and he was talking about how one of the things he said are like, women are very emotion based. Like, she wants to know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, just kind of that kind. And like, dudes are very just point based. Like, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna do that. If you tell me you're gonna be there at 2, I'm gonna assume that you're gonna be there at 2, and just like boom, 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 as opposed to like the wide spectrum, because we get told again, no feelings. Yeah, no, can't be sad, and it's almost kind of like we get boxed in. You're either happy or you're angry, and that's all you've got.
This is true.
Yeah.
But let's go on to the plus portion of this, because we got off on a tangent with the love life, but the plus text interlude. And as I said earlier, you have it set up and designed as though it's a text message.
Yeah.
And I mean, you timestamp it and everything.
Yeah. I just set it up because, again, with these kind of situations, everybody has a support system.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody has people they talk to. So I'm assuming that when the situation above that one, like the piece above that, Loft Life, not the text interlude, but when that situation goes down, that she would have somebody to talk to, and that's what they would be talking about.
Okay. Okay. I see.
So it's kind of like it goes together.
Right.
And the substance of that is like your atypical, like, dudes ain't shit texts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I sat down with myself and I was real and I was like, yo, you're probably on the receiving end of a boatload of these dudes ain't shit texts.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of some of the shit you've done. And like I knew it. And I was like, yo, let's eat some crow on this one and just write it. Like let's
Bite
just
the bullet.
bite. Like, fuck it. Like, if I did it, I did it. And I mean, there's like, for example, I mentioned Lemonade.
Right. Yep.
Which is an album by Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
Lemonade was all about, like, women's empowerment. So I specifically said, like, that album. Like, pick that album. Like, women's empowerment. And that's something I would imagine them just, like, hanging out. Just, like, typical hang out, drink some wine, fuck these dudes, as in, like, these dudes ain't shit. And, like, hang out. Like, they're having a girls' night. And that's why that's why I said, like, the first line says, if you need me, hit me nightly. So, like, if you need somebody, like, reach out to me.
Right.
And then the second line is about Lemonade and how they're going to just hang out and listen to it. And then the next line after it is you're the sugar honey iced tea, which is you're the shit. But, like, Lemonade and iced tea are Arnold Palmer.
Complimentary, yeah.
Yeah, so I picked those because they go together.
Also a little more flowery language than...
Yeah, then you're the shit. Nah.
Might not flow exactly as well.
But it's like, if these dudes don't want to be real with you, then they're not shit. And I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, that's kind of like the basis of he doesn't, he's not telling, like, because as we said before, I talk about how I'm not talking about my feelings, and I just don't, like, I feel like I'm closed off. So I'm not being candid with this person.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And then the line after, they'll miss you when you're a miss, is kind of like, when you're gone, they're going to want you.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's so true, because it's always like, you don't know what you've got until it's gone, and you always want what you can't have. And sometimes you take them with a little bit of grain you take them ingested with a grain of salt, but sometimes it's absolutely true.
Right. Yeah.
Let me see. Let him chase cake. Eventually, he'll choke on the icing. Cake is actually a euphemism for ass, specifically. So she's saying, let him chase ass. He'll fuck himself over.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get in some situation, or it's just not going to work out. It'll fizzle out, and the next line proceeding is, you just do you. That's the right thing. So she's telling her friend to just keep doing what she's been doing. Like, work on yourself, focus on yourself. Just all the things that go into being a person.
Right.
And then the next message is the mascara running and waste of rouge worth it? Don't contour and blend for these men. Do it for you, because you know you're bad as hell. So I'm referencing, like, when somebody cries and they have mascara on, it runs. It goes under their cheeks. You wear rouge or blush on your cheeks. So she's asking her, like, is crying over his ass worth it?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the common things is, if you've ever heard women talk, they always say they don't dress for men, they dress for themselves.
Right.
So she's saying, like, continue to dress for you. Don't dress to appease him. Dress because you know you look good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, the next one here is a very interesting one.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable / acclimated. And now, in this one, it's I think it might be the longest one that's in here.
Yeah, it is.
But you actually jump perspectives in that.
Yeah.
And I also was kind of curious, did this happen for you?
Somewhat in both situations. First, the first and third perspectives are mine.
Right.
And yeah, it kind of it did happen, like, and it was just interesting to because it was one of those on the sexual spectrum, the rabbit hole can go way deeper than you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it was one of those situations where I walked into something and it was brand new. It was like speaking from the perspective of me being green on both accounts, but the reason I'm hesitant is not the reason they would think so, because like the first one, it was kind of like
First one's about asphyxiation.
yeah, the first one's about asphyxiation and choking, but my reference point from choking is getting into a fight and being choked.
Sure.
So, it's kind of like I know what they want, but I know from my perspective. So, it almost kind of be like if I got into a fight, but you're a boxer. So I know a fight, but you know how to fight better.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, like both situations did happen. Now, I will say that the second one where I hit her, that didn't happen.
Right.
So,
but again, in both situations here, the girl is asking for it.
yeah, what I meant was like, yeah, she's asking for it, but in real life, that one didn't happen. But it's kind of like I got to the point afterwards where I'm kind of like, okay, like I understand it, everything within reason. But it was kind of like at that point in time, it was not on the table. Like I was just not comfortable with it.
Not going to it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Like I said, I think that's the longest piece, or
yeah,
maybe
that's
the second longest. He's got a couple long ones as you get towards the end here.
Yeah.
I thought this one was very interesting. This other one, because it's something that I feel like most of everyone's probably been in a situation similar to. The title of it is "Kiss and Never" in parentheses Tell.
Yeah. Because everybody, like you said, everybody's kind of been in one of those situations, and like when you start off with somebody, you might not want to be vocal about it, or you kind of keep things hush hush. But the thing is, how long do you operate like that before it becomes detrimental?
Sure.
That's what I'm asking. Is like how long is somebody a secret?
Right.
Before they're no longer a secret, meaning before you either like shit or get off the pot or things just fall apart.
Right. Could it suffocate what's meant to be? And when it gets super deep, I objectively say it's not for me, but honestly, maybe I took it a little too much to heart. Are very interesting lines and pointing back to what you're saying there.
Yeah, like, again, back to, just dudes and funny feelings about feeling funny. But it's kind of like, and I referenced it before, and we talked about a piece already, but when she told me she liked me and I got cold feet, I was kind of like, no, it's not for me. But I'm thinking, like, maybe I took it just too gung-ho. Like, maybe there was something that could have came from this, and it's like, that's why I asked, like, eventually it may not be. Could it suffocate what's meant to be? Because if you don't let it flourish, then it's eventually going to die.
Sure.
Like, it's gonna die off. Somebody's gonna be like, well, I've had enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought this next one was interesting because it's called Maybe I Am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost to what you were talking about before with with kind of how, because at the end of it, it says you are special, and it's kind of like how you were talking about before, how it's almost difficult to take a compliment or face it yourself.
Yeah. And so that night came from, I had met somebody, we were out, and kind of ended up back at their place, and just everything from front to back is kind of in here because like she was just like I don't want to take this and I'm just like, look, I'm not gonna press you. You like I'm not trying to make you do anything you're not comfortable doing. And then eventually it just progressed. Like it progressed more and more and more, and then it led to her just being like, well, you're very left field from what I've been with.
Right.
And that's where all that came from, was kind of like her description of just everything, and her telling me like, yo, like you don't operate like everyone else. You kind of, you feel it out. You take your time. You're very methodical. You're very thoughtful. Like I remember her at like almost fawning, like, wow, you pay me so much attention.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like you're special, like you're very, and I was kind of like what do you like, what? Yeah, like what? And it's just kind of like, me just talking about what happened and then her kind of expanding upon that.
Right. Okay. And now, I gotta say, this next one, I couldn't help but laugh at the very first line. But it does get pretty deep in this one, too. But the very first line of this next one, well, first off, it's called M Space. And the very first line is, you are the literal definition of a fuckboy. And again, this is in a quote, so I'm assuming somebody said this to you?
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's one of those situations where I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, and the more I thought about it, I was just like, fuck, the shoe fits.
Right.
So rather than shy away from it, take it.
Embrace it.
Not even embrace it, just like, yo, just wear that shit. Like, you, even if it is negative, you fucking earned it. So it's yours now. You can't shake it. You got it. So just sit there and fucking expand upon it.
Right. And then, I mean, it's interesting, the entire way that this one goes, because this one almost progresses as though it's a story in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, at one point you say, then it started, come over and party, yeah, we should just party, kiss me, do shots with me, we should just party. And then it just kind of keeps progressing and progressing.
Yeah. Until
at one point it's so angry you're calling me names and asking me if nothing can change. Are you sure every aspect can stay the same? Fallouts with me is nothing to cry over, especially when you're not sober. So it's an interesting way of going through everything. I mean, I'm guessing this came from some real perspective.
Yeah, it was it was very real. And the thing is, all right, so you wouldn't know it from the actual text, but I referenced the song. I said, well, throw on Marvin's Room. Marvin's Room is a very popular song by Drake.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where that came from, but also just how everything is laid out in the later portion it's mimicking that song purposefully. Like,
okay.
Like when I actually have it on Genius, so you guys can look it up there, and we'll shoot you guys links. But it kind of breaks it down, because Marvin's Room is a song about Drake calls his, I believe it was ex-girlfriend, and he's been out and he's been drinking, and he essentially is just like, yo, fuck your new man. Like, I know you like him, I know he's good for you, but fuck him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in and of itself, it has just a reputation for being just kind of like a song about feelings. So when I got that, and obviously that's not going to be like tee hee and play, like, no, tensions were fucking high, and she hits me with that, and I'm like, shit, throw on Marvin's Room, let it just go. And it was a story in and of itself, and like, just everything from like pretty much everything when it just said, I wish this all went better, that's mimicking the song.
Okay.
So I'm taking from the song, because I know when I think of Marvin's Room, I'm like, yo, somebody fucked up if they're like by themselves listening to Marvin's Room.
Sure.
That's one of those where it's just like, you walk into your friend's room, and it's like a Saturday and everybody's about to go out, and you're like, yo, so the lights are off, you're in bed, and I can hear you listening to Marvin's Room. You fucked up.
Yeah.
How did you fuck up? I don't know, but you fucked up somewhere, bro. And that's kind of like me just kind of like, well, shit, wear it. Like, I'm not gonna, like, it's like, she threw the jab, but the jab kind of fits. So, take it and expand upon it.
Again, it's interesting because, as you stated in the beginning of it and everything, it seems like majority of these are relatively all experiences in some way, shape, or form for you.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's pretty, well, I'm not going to say revealing, but it's very open with everything.
Yeah.
And it's how do I want to word it? It's refreshing, the honesty from almost anybody. It's just a refreshing honesty that's straight up. And like I said, some of them made me actually stop and think. Where I'm just like, is this based off something real? Like, and I mean, you title it Golden Boy, and it does come from a certain perspective that even I myself have of you.
Yeah.
So even as reading them, I was just like, huh.
Yeah, and I mean, it everything, all of it just came from real life experiences. And I mean, if I sat down and I wrote something, then obviously it compelled me enough to do something about whatever was bothering me. Because like I said in the preface, that I write to just kind of keep myself, I don't want to say normal, but just kind of keep myself sane, because
it can definitely be a huge venting technique.
Yeah, and not only that, it's kind of like, for me, that's just how my mind works. Almost kind of like, if you know somebody that's a car person, or they like machinery or something like that, and they'll see a specific piece of machinery, and they'll just be like, all right, so that's a this, and it has the that, and it breaks down like this, and that's just how their brain works.
Sure.
For me, it's almost kind of like, I'm always just lines and just different stuff. I'm sure you know how that feels, because like even you said, like, you'll just pop open a Google Doc and be like, oh, I gotta get this down quick.
Exactly, before it leaves your brain.
Yeah, and I was just like, just do it, just like make it as open. And so these are all those little tidbits and the lines and the, sitting there just like, yo, should I do it? And I'm just like, fuck it, just do it.
I mean, I'm sure it's got to be a little bit of a scary thing for you to be putting it out here.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the next one even kind of goes into that. It actually refers to what, I mean, you literally said it earlier. It's Dear Diary, cement shoes.
Yeah.
And this one is talking again about wanting to know and like people wanting to know and you trying to kind of keep it clean, keep it down, hidden, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And, I mean, just the idea of, like, wearing cement shoes is, like, think about it. If you're wearing cement shoes, somebody, somewhere, wants your ass dead.
Right.
And that's what it feels like. Like, again, like, so it kind of goes back to my mausoleum, to the idea of, you know, tombs and mausoleums and stuff like that. Not to be morbid, but it's kind of like drowning. From what I've read, drowning is one of the most euphoric ways to die, but you're still dead.
Yes.
So it's not like, oh, it's the best way to die, motherfucker. You're dead. Like you're not coming back. You know, DED, dead. But just the idea of just like, all right, feelings, and it's just like, well, shit, I'm sinking. Like I'm done. And
right.
And like I just, I don't know. It's like, and I talk about it in here, and like people want to know about my baggage. I move cautiously with bated breath. The sphere can be savage. It got 12 feet deep, and I can't swim. Breathe it all in. Water encroaching my brim. So it's kind of like I see it coming up.
Right.
It's unavoidable.
Nothing you can do.
Exactly. But it's kind of like I got two choices. Either I let it go or I drown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And now this next one, I'm gonna try to pronounce this.
I can say it if you can't.
I'm gonna give it a shot. You can correct me when I obviously get it wrong.
Yeah.
Lepidopterology?
Lepidopterology.
What is it?
Lepidopterology.
Lepidopterology.
Okay.
Okay.
Lepidopterology is the study of butterflies and moths. So if you read it, it's talking about how, when I was thinking back, I made somebody feel like they were kind of a thing to be looked at, as opposed to somebody to be with.
Right.
And it connects back to Star's Interlude, because that young lady, her favorite, like one of her favorite things is butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
So it all kind of loops around, and it just kind of felt like it felt very fitting in the title, because if you read it, I'm talking about how I kind of made her feel like she was on display, like
right.
she's with me, but I even have a line where I'm just like, never let you land scared of ampersands. Ampersands is the symbol for and, meaning combining two things. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying, like, before it even had wings, I snatched it out of the sky.
Right.
And that's a reference to me getting cold feet.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm thinking about, like, this woman is just kind of near but arm's length. And it's like, it's me purposely.
Purposely doing it.
Yeah, because, again, it's kind of like too much feels like, just too open just feels like death. But it's not death in and of itself, but just kind of like, you know, just...
Right.
Fear. And then I kind of talk about how when I got cold feet and I backed off and she and I kind of had it out a little bit, she told me, like, oh, not to worry about it. But I'm just like, dude, I know this isn't what you want.
Right.
You wouldn't have told me that that's what you wanted.
If you didn't want it.
Exactly. But then you're also telling me to not worry about you, because you don't want me worrying. But I know you're essentially, you're playing your cards because of how I'm playing my cards. I said there are some nights where I thought you should fly free, so I'm not losing sleep over you ditching Z's over me. So I'm just like, yo, I know this shit's like, this isn't fair to you. It's not fair at all. But you tell me not to worry, but I'm sitting there worrying, like, yo, she tells me not to worry, but I know this isn't what she wants.
Right.
Yeah.
Then on to the very last one, which I feel is a very good choice for the last one, because it almost sums up, like, the entirety of the work all in one thing. Like,
yeah.
almost like the basic premise of it, again, with the Golden Boy, the last one here is titled, I'm Sorry, But I'm Human.
Yeah, and actually, that wasn't me. I didn't make up that title. That was actually when I said, like, when I was talking about previously when she and I had the disconnect and the fallout, when she not necessarily spazzed, but when she got angry with me, and she, that's when I got like, you're a fuckboy and you ain't shit, and but like, not necessarily in a malicious sense, but she was angry and she had every right to be. But that was one of her texts to me, was like I'm sorry, but I'm human, and I got feelings, and I was just like,
right,
like
kind of again calling you out a little bit.
Oh, absolutely, and again, that's why I used it, because if the shoe fits,
wear it.
Yeah, like, you wouldn't be called out if it wasn't for how, like, Marcus, let's call a spade. She called you out for how you're acting. I have nobody to blame. I have no fingers to point. I mean, obviously, sometimes in disconnect and in fallouts and stuff, it takes two parties to tango. I'd say, a lot of the brunt is on me, if not all.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I was just like, yo, if you did it, like, own it. Not in like a badge of honor, like, not like a, out here for all the dudes, like, not like that, but just like, if it's mine.
Right.
It's mine, like, whether or not I like it, like, I upset somebody tremendously.
Sure. I mean, you even have the very last line of this. I've been me admitting this will finally help. At what expense, though? Hopefully it's not you.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, yo, how deep does it need to get before I'm just like, yo, I fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like, I know that everything, not necessarily everything, but I know a lot of it just fell the fuck apart because I'm just sitting here trying to I'm just trying to be, like, devoid of just feelings, and just like it's not a fucking business transaction.
Right.
But,
well, that brings us to the end of it here. Is there anything that you wanted to further discuss with this?
Just as far as just everything, like I said, I sat down, and a lot of it happened in October. October was a very big chunk of it. September into October, but October specifically. And it was like you said, it was very open and very refreshing, but it was almost kind of like every bump, like every knuckle to the chin, I was just like, well, if I did it, put it in there.
Right.
Like, if I'm going to go and I'm going to do these things, I'm going to use them, because I'm going to look back at that and I'm going to be like, yo, maybe you shouldn't do that twice. Or,
sure.
Even if I do fuck up a gazillion times, I'm just like, yo, like, I should learn from something here. I should,
Something should be working here at this point.
Yeah, something like, eventually you, sir, who has the square peg, will find the square hole. Eventually. But yeah, it was kind of like, it was almost kind of like the documentation of me trying to be, and I just thought about this today, I was trying to be so laid back and cool because I didn't want to fuck shit up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was too laid back.
Too cool for school.
Yeah, like too laid back, too aloof, too out of, like, just out of reach with everything, and, like, you could find me but you can't, almost kind of like Batman. Like, you can find me but you can't, I'm here but I'm not, you know, and that fucked a lot of shit up. Like,
Sure.
that made a lot of shit just flat out deteriorate, rather than if I would have sat down and had like a 3 to 10 minute conversation where I was just like, I feel like I might feel insecure about this, or this is bothering me, or that is something that I'd really like to talk to you about, or this or that. But the entire time, I was just like, nah. And then it was just kind of me being like, nah, yeah, whatever. But then, like, again, as I mentioned throughout, I just didn't see how much would shift.
Right.
And how much would just fall by the wayside, and how much just in general, like how people feel, and how just how people perceive. And like when I told her, like, the last poem, when I told her about the project that I was writing, she was super excited. And she literally, like, in the preface, like, she texted me, and she was just like, it will, like, she's like, because I had sent her something I had written, and it was one of the things we had done an open mic, and she was like, it's because she loves poetry and writing as well, and she's like, this is, like, fantastic. I'm so, like, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of what you do, and I will always be your biggest fan. And just stuff like that. And I just never thought, as I said in the preface, that it would connect with people like that. And then, like, when I post stuff, people are commenting and sharing and, like, stuff like that, and I'm showing people stuff. And I have a professor asking me, like, hey, are you gonna submit stuff for this, like, because Hack does just kind of like a student publication, and then, like, she's like, yo, are you gonna submit anything? Like, you always submit. Like, what are you going to submit? Which I'm pretty sure the deadline's here soon, so I gotta get on that. But just how, in a sense, how powerful things can be when you sit down and you write about them. And I found that out very, very candidly as I wrote these pieces and as I had these experiences, because it wasn't just like, well, this is a cookie cutter experience, as you've seen and as you've read.
Yes.
Everything is very unique to me, and I mean, other people can go through that as well, and that's kind of one of the things that I didn't I understood it, but I just never thought, like, oh, like, people could go through this and people could like what I like,
sure,
and this and that, and it's been very.
Did you feel it was kind of like a therapeutic thing for you a little
bit? With as much as I dumped into all of it, yes. Just the whole process of writing to me is therapeutic. But then, as I got further and further into it, because it originally started as something else, as I wrote in the preface, it started as something else, and it kind of molded itself into something. And I was kind of, all right, I'll rock with this. But yeah, everything was extremely therapeutic. And I mean, everything was just kind of like, sat down and I thought about it, and I was like, how will this resonate with this? How will this do it with that? And like, even the cover, I shot in my friend's hallway. It was literally like in her hallway at her house, had like a little backdrop that she had from college. I slapped the blindfold on, and she takes a picture, and then boom, and she took like 20, 30 pictures. And just that process was just added to everything, as well as the writing. And then I had, I think of the title, and the title fits, and it was just like it was almost kind of like, even though they never quite leave because I mean, obviously it's sitting there, and I know all the things about them, and I can tell you all the intricacies and the ins and outs, and like why I'm getting like you ain't shit, and I know, but it's not undeserved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Alright.
yeah.
Well, do you want to end this by sharing, like, I mean, we're gonna link links, obviously, but you
Yeah.
want to share?
Share like what, like a favorite piece?
Yeah.
Or like, all right, let's do it.
I mean, we just kind of went through all of them there, got a good general overview of just about everything, got some more in-depth understanding into it, but, yeah, I mean, like, out of all of them, if you have a particular piece that you really feel is good, and I mean, that would be a good way to be closing out here as well, I feel.
I got a couple.
Sorry, I just kind of put you on the spot there. I should have said something earlier.
No, you're good. You're good. All right, so I'd say, all right, how I'm gonna do this is, as I read it, I'm gonna kind of like break it down for you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That way you kind of get it a little bit. All right, so this one isn't a long piece. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read it first, and I'm gonna go down again and break it down a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna read Rent.
Okay.
I don't care what you do during the week. When I'm here for the weekend, I call dibs. You should just lay with me. Bring extra clothes and stay with me. We could stay up late, not watching movies. Heartbreaker, come play with me. Lay your shoulders in my lap. Let me see if I can soothe them. Tangle yourself in my limbs and share your warmth. Let me rest my face in the crux of your nape, cascading my cuticles across your clavicles. I feel you exhale, and with each breath, I draw you closer, like a siren to a sailor out at sea. But I want you to crash on the couch. Stay with me for the night, because you'll be the world's tomorrow. So, as we said previously, she made the joke like, hey, whenever I'm here, I got dibs.
Right, yep.
So there's that. And obviously when she's in town, like, you should just, like, come over. You should hang out. You should be with me. And then bring extra clothes. You can stay with me. Obviously, like, stay the night. And we could stay up late not watching movies. Is alluding to more than just staying the night. Heartbreaker, come lay with me. Now, the heartbreaker line could be, like, she's calling me. Excuse me. She's, like, teasing me.
Right.
Or she's calling me out.
She could be literal, yeah.
Yeah, she could just be like, I know what you're about, but you should still come over.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, lay your shoulders in my lap. Let me see if I can soothe them. Tangle yourself in my limbs and share your warmth. Let me rest my face in the crux of your napes, cascading my cuticles across your clavicles. It's kind of like you're laying down, you're wrapped up in somebody, you're enjoying someone. She's rubbing my shoulders. She's kind of like brushing her fingertips across my shoulders as I'm just kind of sitting there. And then I feel you exhale with each breath. I draw you closer like a siren to a sailor out at sea. In the old Greek mythos, sirens would call sailors to come. They would call them in, and then their whole thing was they're trying to make them crash the boat because they'd call them in, and then the reefs would mess up the hull of the boat, and the boat would sink.
Right.
So I'm making the illusion that she's like a sailor calling me over because she doesn't want me to. She wants me to crash, but she wants me to crash there.
Right. Right.
As in, like, if the boat crashes, you're stranded. If I'm
go
there,
anywhere.
yeah, if I come over and I crash, I'm there for the night. And then stay with me for the night because you'll be the world's tomorrow. It's kind of like referring to the heartbreaker line, like when you're with me, and the dibs line, like when you're with me, but when you're not, you could be all over creation.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're the world's. You're gone. Like I don't see you. I don't know where you're at. I don't know what you're doing. You are the world's today. But when you're with me, I can spend time with you. And that's that.
Interesting. I like it. And I think getting a little more in depth on that was insightful.
Yeah. It's definitely good, man. Definitely therapeutic.
But, all right, folks. Like we said, unless you want to say it vocally here, but we're definitely going to have links available and everything.
Yeah. We will definitely do that.
Yeah, we're over an hour and a half into it, so hopefully you guys, if anything, you guys really should have opened it up and read along with us as we were going through.
Yeah.
But we hope you've enjoyed. We hope to do some of these a little bit later on. But in the meantime, I guess that's that.
Yes, that's interview with Nick.
Special interview with Nick. Thank you for your time.
But yeah, for those of you who would like to reach me, it's QUEZMAV. That is Instagram. That is Twitter. SIRMAV is Snapchat, and then I'm going to post it on the Genius website, which is just genius.com. And if you look under, you can just type in AU_XY, and it should pop up. I believe the first one, if the entire project does not pop up, Preface pops up. And you can do that. If you've never used Genius, you can actually go through, highlight, and annotate every line if you want to, and kind of write your own little descriptions, and it's really cool. And I sat down over the process of about 2 days and did all that. So that's in there as well. And I think I'm just going to get like a plain old blog, so then that way if people don't or are not familiar with that, then they can read that. But I have everything up in Genius, and that's annotated, and I might do the blog. And I don't know, I was thinking about actually somewhere down the line doing physical copies. But
there you go.
I'll jump that hurdle when I get there, but I will let everybody know if that happens. But for now, you can read it online.
All right, very good. And I'm Nick. You can find me at nlens42. That's NLENZ42 on Twitter, Snapchat, or Instagram. Yeah, I guess that's going to do us for you. It's time. So thank you, Marcus, for sitting down and talking with us and doing interview.
Oh, absolutely.
And hopefully we'll be able to do a few more of these in the upcoming future.
Oh, hell yeah, man. If you guys have anything project-wise that you'd like to be interviewed about, you should totally get in touch with us.
Yes, absolutely. All right, cool. Yeah, it'd be a good way for you to share your information, and we'll gladly put it out there.
Yeah, you can share your craft and get it out.
So just hit us up at any of those that we gave.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, have a good week.
Yeah, thank you.